Broadcasting.
Welcome, everybody. How are you? This is Joe Bergamini here, coming to you for the Sabian Education Network, one of our wonderful webinars. And today I have a repeat guest, actually, one of our soonest repeat guests. We just had him on not too long ago, but we have a lot to talk about today. One of my favorite drummers, one of Sabian's favorite drummers, longtime endorser, and the author of his new autobiography, Liberty, Life, Billy, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Please welcome Liberty DeVitto. Lib, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back. And it's a wonderful podcast you have here. It's just, and Joe, you did an amazing job on helping me. I don't know if people know that you edited this book. You must have read it like at least 20 times to dot the I's and, all the commas. And it's insane.
Thank you.
I think a great job. Great job.
I appreciate that deeply, man. I mean, it's, you know how much I grew up playing along with your records, and the whole editing job definitely was not something I ever really trained for. It just sort of grew over the years. So when we got a chance to do the book, it's interesting. I'm always a little trepidatious at the beginning because you're telling your life story, and I'm there to try to help. But it really means a lot to me. And like I said, this is been one of the highlight projects for me in my publishing career. So thank you for letting me in and letting me be part of it.
Well, it was great on the back cover, that whole back cover, you wrote that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that you read it. I was watching your video and you read it in your own voice, and it was really inspiring to me to hear that.
It's funny. When you're in this bubble with this guy, Billy Joel, you don't even think about what you've done in the past, because to stay successful for that many years, you have to think about what you're going to do next. Right. Not, like there was times when I was in a lull that I would take all the gold albums off the wall, take them off the wall. I'm looking at them thinking, I did pretty good. I'm all right. Take them down. I got to create new, and so when you mention like 23 of his 24 hits I played on, and the Grammys, all of his Grammys, I was the drummer on all of it. It's like, wow, that's a lot of work. I didn't know I did that.
Yeah. It really is uncanny that the number of people that have heard your playing is just, it's uncanny that number of records sold, that people sitting in barber chairs all over the world for years hearing the song, but Just the Way You Are, come piping in. So it's like people know you, even if they don't know who you are, they've heard the work, and they've, so it's pretty amazing. And to look back at it must be pretty staggering. I was looking at the old drum book.
Yeah.
And I was looking at this one, and
yeah, look at the mullet.
A little water under the bridge between those two products.
Yeah. I was talking to Rob about maybe doing something with the drum book next.
I've always loved it. I've always thought it was great. Let's talk, since I know you've been doing tons of interviews, and since I had sort of an inside look at working on the book, I wanted to talk about the process of writing it a little bit. So it just occurred to me that when you read an interesting autobiography of someone like yourself, people aren't born and say like, man, I'm going to be big, I better write down everything. So you obviously had to go through a process of researching. How did you go back and recall all of the stuff from your childhood and all of the family stuff let's talk about before the Billy Joel stuff, but the early times.
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate enough that my father lived till he was 91 years old, and my mother was 89 when she passed away. And I've always been curious about my family. I know it's Italian families, and a lot of families, whether it be Irish, Jewish, whatever, they like this. They have this code of silence where they don't talk about like, oh, Aunt Marie did this, and we don't talk about that, Aunt Marie, what she did. But my family was able to open up. I mean, I said, I need to know this stuff. I really want to know this stuff. I want to tell it to my children. So I remember sitting down with my father and my Aunt Millie and using a tape recorder and having them talk into the tape recorder. And they would tell me what it was like growing up in Brooklyn during that time. That whole part about my father getting pulled up by the cops because he was throwing, they said he was throwing rocks at the subway station, all that whole history, what it was like, World War II, what happened during that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The book has like almost 300 pages, so there was a lot of stuff that we didn't put in, like you know, things that happened during the war and things that happened in our family when they were home, and you know. But I knew about the relationship between my mother and my father's sisters. They didn't like her because she was a divorced woman. You know, they used to talk about all that stuff. It was really funny. But talking to my dad, you know, he started to write down all his memories of his life. And so he had the book, and I said, Dad, did you write everything you did? And he said, well, there's some things I didn't put in the book because I'm ashamed that I actually did them. And I said, you know what, Dad, why don't you write them down, put them in an envelope, and said, this is for Lib, can't open until after I'm gone. You know, he never did that. So I don't know what it was. But if it was something that was so embarrassing and he feels very foolish for doing what he did, then he had the right not to tell me. And you know, there's some things in this book that just read between the lines and try to figure out what it was, or I just didn't think it was worth doing it, you know. So yeah, so taping the family, talking to family members, and doing all that. It was a long time doing that. That was a long time. I just wanted to know the history of my family. I had no intention of writing a book when I was doing that.
Right. That's my next question was going to be, you know, that's interesting to know. Yeah, you go back and do the research. You go to Ellis Island. In our case, if you're Italian American, you look at the manifest of the ships and see all that. So
yeah, I remember when I remember my second wife was a German, Irish, English, or something like that, and it was always like, your family's so loud. They scream at each other. You guys fight when you're eating dinner. You know, that's why I say in the book, it's like, it was like an opera. You know, there could be nothing, lull, and all of us screaming, and then back to a lull again, you know. And I said, I remember saying this and thinking like, you know, Italian families, that's what you see in the movies. They make movies out of what an Italian family is like. They make movies of what a Jewish family is like. They make movies of what an Irish family is like.
right.
My family, and I'm sure your family too, Joe, growing up, it was a movie. You've seen it in the movies a million times. You know, there's no difference.
Right. I love how you, in the book, and by the way, you guys, it is available on the Hudson site. Let me put the link up here so you guys can see it. One of the things I love about the book is that you do bring it full circle, you know, back to it closes towards the end before your reunion with Billy. You talk about sitting with your family and listen to your, you know, your family talk, and it's Sunday, and we never, you know, we the imprint, you know, despite all we do, you know, somebody could get into a huge band and tour the world like you did, or they could be, you know, just have another job, honorable life, but not well known. It's like the imprint stays with you. And really it's like the same experience, you know, some people just are known and other people aren't known, but it feels very common to my experience for sure, you know?
Right. Well, you know, I can talk about, or remember what it's like to play at Madison Square Garden, or what it's like to play at the Grammys or Giant Stadium, but it doesn't affect me when I think about what it was like to sit on my grandmother's lap, you know, and be at those family dinners.
Mm-hmm.
You know that's you growing up. That's what shaped you into the guy I'm looking at right now. Is those family dinners. You know, that family relationship became Joe Bergamini. You know, not the drums. The way you play comes from that Italian family. You know,
right.
I always tell guys, they're like, "Wow, did you see this guy? You know, Joe Blow, whoever it was, he plays Latin like crazy, you know." And then I'll say, "Well, let me ask you this: do you ever see the guys that grew up in Cuba and grew up in Puerto Rico? You ever see them play Latin? Big difference, because that was part of their culture. You know, I can make a meatball because I used to watch them do that. These guys that play Latin like insane Latin, that's what they did. That's what they heard every day. That's what you know. It's how you grew up that you bring into your music. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Anyway.
No, I agree, and it's funny. We had two gentlemen from Cuba on, Rodney Barreto and Oliver Valdez, last Friday. Dom and I interviewed them, and they were just so honored to be on. And we were talking about Daphnis Prieto, you know, and Daphne's, when he was on as my guest, he was saying, like, I was like, you know, what did you bring to Michel Camilo? Because, you know, he had Rosenblatt and he had Weckl, and, you know,
Right.
and he was like, I brought me, you know, he's
Yeah.
like, I want to hear you. So you're, you know, like we said when I was thinking about the back cover text that you talked about,
Right.
like you're, like Billy said, with you, like your personality and your, you know, your upbringing and your New York Italian experience is just ingrained in it. Comes out when you play, and he fed on that. He wanted it. So it's a good thing for us to keep in mind, because, like, especially nowadays, like, even doing this for a living, you see so many people who have crazy chops, but what moves me is what people say with the chops, not necessarily the chops themselves.
Exactly. I heard a saying, somebody said the other day in a movie, they said, you don't have to practice to be you. You don't have to practice to be you. Anything else you want to be, you got to practice to be that. But to be you, you don't have to practice, you know?
That's true. Another thing, was it the same when you were recounting in the book? You recount fondly growing up on Long Island, and you had sort of like came from the city, and then you had a suburban experience. You know, you're talking about going down to the dock and swimming and dirt bomb fights and all the kids you were friends with. The thing that's really cool is that everybody reading this book, especially if it's younger people, like we all have like the same dreams, kind of like you're coming up. How that must have all been just from your memory of it, right? Like, or did
Oh,
you?
yeah. Yeah, that was all memory. And, you know, Captain Eddie's is no longer there, where we used to go swimming off the dock and fishing off the dock. It's not called Captain Eddie's, it's something else. He sold the place a long time ago. But I can remember in detail hanging over the pole when we were crabbing. You're crabbing with the net, going into that cooler and seeing those bottles floating in there.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that really well. It was just something that's really ingrained in my brain. You know, just walking to Captain Eddie's and just living in Seaford, growing up there in the 50s, when there was nothing out there. You know, there was nothing. We could walk all the way out to the greenhouse, which was the beginning of the bay. And if you stood at the greenhouse, you could see the Jones Beach Theater from there. You know,
Right.
It was insane.
Wow. What so you, as you recollected all the stuff, at some point when you, like, I don't know if when you got with Billy or whatever, did you start keeping a diary at some point?
No, no diary, no diary. You know, it's funny. A lot of people have asked me, how do you remember what went on in the studio? Well, you know, when me and Billy had the falling out, I just didn't want to have anything to do with the music anymore. I mean, you know, I think we may have even cut it out that I was breaking gold albums over the edge of a table. And, you know, if a song would come on the radio, I would turn it off. I just wanted nothing to do with it. But when Andy Gilmartin and Elizabeth Weber kind of got us into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, me, Richie Cannata, Russell Javers, and the late Doug Stegmeyer, into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, they asked us to play one song. Now, I wasn't going to go. I said, no, I'm not going. Of course, you remember Joe Hibbs, of course, from Apex and Tama. I talked to him about it, and he said, do you really want to go back there again? You know, and I said, you know, I really don't. I don't want to go back there again. But I did, because I felt for the other guys who were my brothers for so long in the Billy Joel band, and they were excited about it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. I actually sent somebody else, my friend Eddie, to go do the sound check. I didn't even want to go do the sound check. So we did one song, and the crowd reaction was so great that we actually did about 5 songs that night. And I said, you know what? A lot of people are making a lot of money doing Billy Joel tribute bands. We're the real guys. Why don't we go do it? You know, so we got Dave Clark to be the Billy Joel guy, he's a great artist in himself. But yeah, so we got Dave. We got Malcolm to play bass. You know Malcolm Gold.
Yeah, love Malcolm.
Dennis Delgadio,
Yeah.
and Doug Kistner, Doug too, to play in the band. You know, and we became the Lords of 52nd Street. And as we're playing the songs, and I'm learning the songs again, you know, refreshing my memory, I'm starting to fall in love with the songs again. And as I'm thinking about, all of a sudden, I always went right back to the studio and how much fun we had making those records, and live, what it was like to play live with Billy, you know. So now I had the love for the music, but I didn't have the guy yet, you know. the guy that I shared the stage with for 30 years. I looked up and there he was. Every time we were playing, there he was. 30 years. Looked up when we were recording. There he was. 11 albums, sitting over there. So that's why at the end, when I thought like this feud has got to be over, the drum piano feud's got to be over, I reached out to him and said, this is done. It's stupid. We made such great music together. Why are we not talking to each other? Mm-hmm. And he said this, I felt the same way when it ended. I was very unhappy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we're buddies.
That's great. I can remember when we were you're working on the end of the book, and you told Rob and I that Rob Wallace, owner of Hudson Music, you told Rob and I, guys, I got some news, and this might be pretty interesting. I'm just going to be getting together, with Billy for lunch or whatever, and it's just amazing. I mean, the bond that you guys have that's talked about in the book, and for those of you who haven't read it yet, there's a few questions coming in that I don't want to answer. I'm like, read the book. We can't answer it here better than Liberty did it in the book. But it was just amazing to see that, they say you can't go home again, but all that imprint of all the time you spent with Billy, even if you guys never play together again, there's still a bond that you share that now you've renewed, and it's just great to see that. And you guys went through a lot of crap. I mean, not just the legal stuff and not talking to each other, but it's good to see that that you guys came full circle, and it just made me so happy to see that picture of you guys together on the last page.
Yeah, it was great to meet with them. A friend of mine, Leslie, she said to me, she goes, "It's so great to know that the music that we grew up on now has a happy ending." Mm-hmm. Because she was so upset that me and Billy didn't talk anymore, and we made this beautiful music that the fans think is this beautiful music in their lives. It's a soundtrack to their lives, and to think that the band, they don't talk to each other anymore, they hate each other or whatever,
Right.
Oh, it's like, this is great. That every disagreement has been resolved, and
right.
So
we still, just to be clear, in the book, you definitely don't, you don't gloss over, if there was arguments or, things you guys didn't agree on in the studio or whatever, so it's all in there. And one of the things that I've, you still there, Lib? Oh, I think I lost you.
Joe, hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
I lost the sound. Mike.
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Anna.
Technical difficulties. No worries, guys. We'll get Lib back on here in a second.
Yeah, Mike.
Let me know when you can hear me.
Audio. Hold on.
Okay.
Mic is on. I'm not hearing you.
You're not hearing me?
You're in the show.
And had a little glitch. Stand by, you guys.
Are we there?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
You cannot hear me. Okay.
Hold on. Chat. Mike. Cam. Anything up here? Nothing up here.
It's okay, guys. I'm gonna give
Anna.
Lib, I'm gonna give Lib a call, and we'll get this figured out.
You calling Anna?
Yes.
Okay, you want me to come down?
Yes, please.
Cool. This is the. Let me share the screen so you guys can see. Liberty's. You guys can see Liberty's.
A call came in for you, and I lost the sound. I can't hear him, and he can't hear me.
Let me show you guys the screen. Sorry for these technical difficulties.
You have it on mute. How about now?
Joe,
Check.
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Maybe the volume dropped down or something.
Guys, you know what?
Joe.
I think. Can you hear me?
Your mic is on. Your cam is on. Your cam.
I think what I'm going to do is
on.
I'm going to end the session and we're going to start it again. We'll be right
Your
back,
mic
guys.
is on.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Is this live?
Yes.
Yeah.
Phone call came in. I guess it was Alex.